Hello all, and welcome to another episode of the Low Code Cafe, episode number 125 for January 25th, 2023. Today is a special episode. We're going to be speaking with Jen Sharp, who is a skydiver and a low coder for the United States Parachute Association. I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion, and we'll get to it in just a minute. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plankton App, and your host. This is an event we do for the community every Wednesday this hour. We use it as an opportunity to update you on what's going on with low code and Plankton App, but we dedicate the biggest part of it to low coding, to actually tackling a topic. And so today's topic is going to be about a system that was built with Plankton App. But we do, and it's Jen is a guest speaker. We invite you to be a guest speaker if you have a system or a part of a system, a solution that you'd like to share that you think would be of value to our audience. We would invite you to get in touch with us, and we will present that with you. All of our past episodes are on YouTube, youtube.com/PlanktonApp. We invite you to go out and look at the other 124 hours of content. Hopefully you can have that done by next week. But no, do subscribe to that, hit the alarm bell. You'll know when we publish new content. Today's agenda is pretty straightforward. I'm going to give a couple of updates about some hot fixes that are available in my From the Trenches of Support segment. But then we'll jump right on to the hands-on low-code development discussion with Jen Sharp and team. Please engage with us. There's a chat window. There's a question and answer window. You can raise your hand if you want to ask a question. And then when it's all over with, talk to us on the feedback form that was in the link to that is in the emails that you would receive from us. Let us know how we could make it better, what you'd like to see in upcoming webinars. So great. With that, a couple of things in From the Trenches. We're currently on, we have released version 1.24 of our product, but we've put out some hot fixes to version 1.23, the previous version. We don't do that very often, but we did it in this case. So there's 3 new hot fixes, and they're all really about the same thing. It's the updates. You'll see them to our update module, to the form builder, and to the listing builder. And this was an area where some SQL migration scripts needed to be fixed. When we, as you install each update, these there are SQL scripts that run in the background that update your system to accommodate the newer versions, the rearrangement of data or addition of data to the background setup of Plankton App. And we had used some SQL migration scripts that were from higher than our published minimum, which is SQL Server 2012. And that minimum, I'll just mention, is changing here. We will announce a change to that as well, to a higher version, so be aware of that. Anyway, if you might take a look and see if you we would recommend that you install these updates when you're on this version 1.23. We have not released any updates to version 1.24 this week, so stay tuned. Come back next week. We'll see what's new. This is a slide I used last time and just kind of talked about the known issues and the kinds of things that we're fixing in that SQL script. So we had a presumption that you were the DB owner. We had a presumption that you might have been in a higher version than SQL 2012. So these are just a couple of things that we're trying to address with this update. I encourage you to be part of our other event our other regularly scheduled public event that we hold on Fridays during the same hour. It's the Low Code Campfire. That's not in a webinar format, but rather a meeting format. We all get together. There's a large group of us that talk about low code in general, specific applications, and oftentimes this is ends up being a steering committee for people. They can come with their project design and ask opinions about how things should be structured, or come with low-level problems and often get solutions all in that same hour. So it's a really good community effort to help one another get better at low code. So do engage with us. The email for that, I'll put these on the chat here in a minute, but here are the links that are going to go on the chat where you can register in advance for Low Code Campfire, where you can get to our webinar recordings. You can interact with us on the community portal. Lots and lots of questions get answered both by us, but by the community. And so take advantage of the community portal. There's also an opportunity there for you to get live help. We run a couple of sessions a week where you can sign up in advance, and we'll answer questions, deal with your particular issues personally. And finally, give us that feedback that I mentioned earlier. Great. With that, let's jump right on in, and I can ask the other presenters to jump in, unmute yourselves, and if you would quickly, maybe Tico, you can start and introduce yourselves and your role in this discussion today.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Dale. My name is Tico de Waard. I'm calling from the Netherlands, so it might be a bit dark out here. I've been a long time PlantNet user, well, I think 3 years now. And today I have the role of, and the opportunity and the honor of asking Jen some questions. And I am a marketing and communication specialist, but I am a bit tech savvy. Luckily, Jen has much more knowledge about development, and the same goes for Patrick. So let's jump to Jen. If you can unmute yourself, yeah. Hi. Would you take a minute to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Jen Sharp, and I am the Director of Technology at United States Parachute Association. But before that, I've only done that 6 years. Before that, I actually had my own company that I did some contracting with larger companies, but a lot of times I just took on clients. So I've been doing that since like 1998, I think. So
you are about 25 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I jump out of airplanes, and people think that's interesting. So
yeah. You're not the only one jumping out of planes, right? I think there are a few more.
There's a lot. Actually, USPA has 40,000 active current members, and we've just recently really delved into how much we can serve them online and give them a lot of resources and everything. So it's only really been since I got hired, because there was no director of technology before, and I'm actually more like developer and database administrator and tech support and everything, because really my department has one person in it, and that's me. But that's why this solution is just fantastic for us. So
okay,
Planes and Apples is great for us.
So 40,000 people jumping out of planes, and the USPA, what is your role in that matter?
Well, for the association, I'm an employee at headquarters, but I'm also, because I've been a skydiver since I was 18, I'm also an examiner, an instructor. So basically I run training courses to teach people how to be instructors, how to be skydivers. And I think all of that, and I'm also a judge, like for competitions. So I think all of that experience also helped in these kinds of projects. But subject matter expert, that's really if you have that, and then you have a tool like PlantNet, I think that's really probably the most important pieces. So even though I am a developer and all that, I didn't require those kind of skills, but of course I wanted to make it really awesome, so I did use everything, and including one thing was the biggest tool, which is the dedicated technical success manager, which is Patrick, because he was amazing, and I couldn't imagine doing this as a single person in an association, a department of one, without some help. And it would have taken a lot longer to do this, and I would have been a lot more frustrated. I probably wouldn't have near the features if I didn't have him helping me. And I really recommend that. That's a great way to go.
So when you say doing this, you talked about creating the application.
Yes.
And the application basically is about member registration? Is that,
So
or is that
it's,
too small?
yeah, it's kind of like an AMS and a CMS and a financial software and everything all wrapped in one. So basically what led to our decision to move was we were kind of forced into that. We were part of a ransomware issue. It wasn't even affecting us, but we did notice that what we thought we had in place that would be good for continuity was not that great. So we needed to rethink how we had that set up. And sometimes when I say we, I really mean me, because it kind of falls on me. But, you know, discussions with USPA staff and everything. So we needed to figure that out pretty quickly. And I had already had some dealings with the DNN Sharp modules. So I was just kind of looking for, hey, what can we do? Of course, we got stable again and everything, but that was a big wake-up call for us that we need to maybe do something as a little bit better. And then the AMS that we were using, the company decided to change their business model on us. So we were fine. We were going along just fine. It was it was Dynamics, but it was a version that was kind of customized for associations. And they changed their business model and decided that they were going to make us pay for the upgrade. I had heard from other clients it wasn't going well. And, you know, we didn't want to upgrade. We wanted to stay where we were. But that's where people are, right? You don't want to change if you don't have to change. And that's a difficult thing. We are sort of forced to make some decisions. But if I had some advice for anybody, I would say, that's not the way you really want to go about it. You really want to be thinking ahead, thinking forward ahead of like, okay, what would be the best situation? And then just actively go for that instead of we were sort of forced into a situation. But that's what led to the decision. And once I got into the Plantain app, we had the harvest module. And I was like, wow, I can't believe, first of all, how easy this is, how integrated it is in the whole site. You know, we have DNN anyway, and how powerful it is.
So what did you expect? I mean, you were forced to make a jump, not out of the plane, but to new architecture and to new modules. And for those not familiar with that, but DNN is the content management system you are using. Mm-hmm. Did you have any expectations?
Well, I mean, I've used DNN modules and a lot. I mean, that's what we've had used for many years for our front end anyway. So I just had the idea, hey, why don't I just build it? And the Plantain modules, it's not like it's just one module. It's not like it's just a DNN module that you just install. It is the entire environment, and they all the modules work so well together that it is a full package. It's not just like a module that you put on your website. It is just high level where you can have a lot of control. And once I started like looking into that, I'm like, okay, we need to do this. And I thought, hey, why don't I just write it? You know, I've written things before. Let me just try it, you know, and I wrote all the things that were on our current site with less ability to code. You know, I felt like I was coding with one hand behind my back when I'm, you know, writing on top of other people's modules and trying to figure out how to hack them. Basically, not really hack, but, you know, workarounds, I guess. Yeah. And but this had so much more power. And the thing I loved about the Plantain modules, even from the beginning, was that it was a shortcut. Like, you just create the fields and you can connect them, and then immediately it builds grids and listings and search and forms and permissions, and it's all so easy, and all of the modules have a similar interface. So if you learn what the interface is about, then you can immediately just start working with another module that is connected to it, because the interface is very, very similar. Yeah. And the help is just right there. I have to admit, I sometimes gloss over those little words that tell you things. I forget that, and Patrick reminds me. He's laughing right now because I do that. Yeah. I don't know how to do this, and he goes, "It's right there in the words that you just didn't read." You know, so it's way better than having like different modules and trying to juggle all of that, and then you have to go to a separate help documentation page, you know, website to go look things up. Everything's really right there while you're trying to administer it. But also the beautiful thing for me is that although you can do that, you can just build the tables and the forms and here you go. And it looks great, great design for UI and everything. But if you want to go further, you can. And I think I pushed the limits of, at least my knowledge of how technical can I get? How intricate can I get?
Well,
And we have
Patrick is
members,
nodding, so yes, you push the limits.
I mean, our members are kind of picky. They're like, well, we need to be able to do this, but only on a Tuesday if it's right after a full moon, and have to have a hamburger for lunch, something. It's really, really particular about all the ifs and thens and all that. And so I would say, like, the worst thing about Plant App now is that I don't have an excuse that the modules that somebody else wrote are in my way. They know I can do anything now. And that's the problem now, because they're asking, what is it called? Like performance punishment or something. Once they know you can do it, and then there's a lot of requests already. We just went live about a month and a half ago, and there's all of these requests now that, oh, we can do that. Oh, we can do that. Hey, can we do this? So that's the worst thing, is like, now I got my to-do list did not get smaller.
Yeah. So before jumping into pictures and showing stuff, because I am excited to see what you created. I mean, first, little spoiler alert. I mean, it all comes down to a business case that makes sense. How was the business case for you? I mean, did things get faster, easier, obviously more performance for you?
Yes. So basically, if you look at like the development part, I spent a year recreating things that took me about 5 years to create in the previous system.
Yeah.
And so some of it maybe was just a little faster because I already knew what I wanted and I already knew what didn't work and I wanted to kind of update it. But I was learning a new system too. I was learning Plant App for the first time. So that kind of offsets each other. So that's how fast it was. The other thing is we just implemented international affiliate renewals, and that's just one of our programs. And the group membership coordinator I was just talking with, she said, I love this. Last year when we did this, and it was my design, by the way, last year was my design. When we did this, it took me, I did 5 applications in a day. And today I already did 50. So we're talking just immense. And part of it's because I know what she needs, but part of it is because the flow works really well. I can, design it how I want. And that's the beautiful part of this. It's not like, sometimes associations will get like out of the box cookie cutter solutions, and they just have to change their business model to fit the program.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. They actually have to, like, they would go to me, like our board meetings, like I could not imagine presenting to our board something that they wanted and for us to say, nope, we can't do that because the software won't let us. And that's really horrible for associations or businesses, that you have to change your business practices because of the limitations of the software. And with this, there are none. And, and like, for example, somebody's like, oh my gosh, I forgot, I need a report. It needs to have this and this and this. And I'm like, okay. And it took me like 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and I should have delayed just a little bit, just so they,
Well, we have more than 10 minutes, so I'm anxious to, I mean, I can't wait to see more stuff. Do you have anything to show us that we can see what you created?
Absolutely. I have, so basically I did do the back side of our, I added the back side of our whole environment. This would be like what the back side looks like. It's the same website you see, but the front side is like the member facing side. So basically there's 2 pieces to what I did. And this is definitely DNN driven for sure, but it has forms and grids and uses tokens and all that. It's pretty intricately integrated directly with the back office as well. It's the same website. I just have an internal button, and I have a whole series of pages that's admin only, staff only. And so if we look at what that looks like, there's a bunch of different departments, And for example, communications department has no business. They don't need to look at membership services stuff. And so I can control the user permissions even on the staff level. I have one person who I made a citizen developer, which she has no coding background at all. And she's still emerging in what her skills are and everything. But that's the other thing I can do is like, even though I'm a department of one, if I have somebody who's very good at data, which she's the membership services director, she knows our data really well, then I can help, I can push some roles onto other people. Because wow, I'm about to get really busy. I'm about to get busier. I thought this was going to be the end. And really, you can teach people on a high level with no coding how to do some of these things because you're administering forms. And so we have that. So it's very, totally customizable however we do it. Like I named these roles and everything.
Okay.
So
for instance,
yeah.
the membership services, that's one of the bigger issues, I think, like certifications. You have to prove experiences or something like that.
Right.
I mean, you cannot keep on jumping out of planes without any certifications.
That's right. And continuing ed stuff. And so like if we, here's an example of like if I search for a member, I can find people, like sometimes people spell their name wrong and if they're typing, they're writing it by hand by an application or something like that. We're trying to go all paper, but some of our members don't do that. So if you only have a little bit of information, you can still find the people that you want to find. This is my cat actually. So there he is right there. So he's my test account. And so you can see all the things that we have for this person. This is all available to the membership services. They can edit on their side as well, but we have the editing rights and the tabs work great because you can just go through and see what you need to see. There's buttons to do other things, to go other places, but kind of in one snapshot, the membership services department sees the most important pieces. And so for example, one of the things that was a problem in our last system was we would have people who would say, it won't let me, blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh, that's like my worst, that's like my pet peeve. When somebody goes, it won't let me blah, it won't let me do this. And I'm like going, okay, can you be more vague at all? How can I help you if you can't even tell me what's wrong? And it ends up being that they're on the wrong page even or something, because I feel like most of the stuff I do is not like heavy code. It's mostly, how can I make this so somebody doesn't mess up? Like 80% is just like trying to guide the user to doing it right, especially if we're turning over these things to our members. And, used to, we had, I don't even know how many it was, 10 people before my time. We had about 10 people in membership services department. And slowly, we didn't like fire everybody, but just when people would leave or whatever, we just didn't replace them because of the technology that we implemented to be able to have people not have to like, oh, I'm going to print an email and sit it right here and then type it in again, self-service kind of things, which people expect. And it ends up being that we now have 3 people in membership services to serve 40,000 members. And I don't think without technology like this, you could even do that.
So the search that you just performed, that's a search out of 40,000 people.
Yes, and that is where
fast.
Patrick is brilliant at that as well, by the way. At making suggestions to try to make the performance super high and limit things in the beginning so that it just doesn't take forever to come up, because it's unreasonable. We have like 275,000 contacts, not just 40,000. Okay. Because historically we have data from the 1970s and that members do not want us to get rid of. We can't just purge our data every so often, and so we do have a whole lot of data, and it's with just a little bit of planning and especially help knowing those kinds of things, you can really make it fast. It's not a problem.
I think I saw something that was a bit odd for me as not being jumping. Well, if you go up a little, there is this checkbox saying bad address. That seems like something the director would ask on a Tuesday. Like, can you make Why is that a bad address?
Okay. So basically, we do have SmartyStreets, an API with SmartyStreets, which is great because we just integrated it directly into this form through an API. And
Okay.
I just like, I mean, it is a little bit, if you haven't done that before, I've done Google APIs before, so it wasn't that bad, but there's a lot of like intricacies, and you can just read their instructions and then build an API and connect it to the form. And you don't necessarily need coding to do that. You do need kind of like a mindset of keeping things straight. But then we have a subscription with them, and it'll check to see, it'll check address right there. That's the SmartyStreets thing right here. And so it verifies it and populates it already, and then we can save it. But if it ever comes back, if we mail something and they come back and we don't know how to get the good address, then she'll check the address so we don't mail anything accidentally.
Yeah.
Because it's
Okay.
expensive to mail stuff that comes back. So that helps save us money by just having that manual.
Because you
thing.
also integrated this with some email service provider or some emailing software.
Yeah, we have Mailgun as a provider to do, because they have really good protocols for just like not getting spammed and stuff like that. And so it definitely, with the kind of volume that we do with email, for sure, that we have to have something that helps us not be spammed. We have the SPF records and DMARC and all that other stuff that you're supposed to do on your domain. It still doesn't, still you get spammed, you get marked as spam unnecessarily, but it's a help. Yeah. But one of the best things is this button, Impersonate User. Like I was saying, the people who didn't know how to help themselves, that we can actually impersonate and see exactly the things that they saw. And this was so beneficial when I first opened this thing, because in development, I kept everything completely locked down. Like all the permissions would be just, no, don't show it to anybody, And then what I noticed, one of the biggest problems when I started opening it up was, oh, they don't have permission. And there's no way to know that unless you act like the user. And instead of like going in, changing the password, oh no, hey, sorry, we changed your password, you're gonna have to change it to something else now. We would just impersonate, and it's one click. It's great. Basically, it's like this, and I go like open an incognito window, and I can see exactly there's Peppermint right there. There's their thing. I can just like go around and see what they see or not see. Oh, they see the renew button, or they don't see the renew button. Those kinds of things that are so
That's
invaluable
cool.
because the member doesn't know how to help you.
Yeah. Is it Impersonate User? Is that something you developed yourself?
Oh no, that's the thing that you guys have. Yeah, it's just create an auto login link as somebody else. That's it.
Oh, that's
It's like
a hidden gem
one
then.
action.
I didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
thank you.
like an action, a button. Okay,
I can do that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So and at the top there's several tabs, and one of them is like the most appointments and positions. Did you also create something with appointments apparently?
Yeah, and a lot of this was actually our data structure before already, because we have appointments, we have safety and training advisors, or we have like or even board of directors, we have elected officials and things like that. And so it's very customizable. I can just create my own tables and link them exactly how I need. And yeah. So, but what we really want is money, right? Any association really wants some money. And so we have orders and invoices, and we also have a historical record of previous information that came from 2 database systems ago. So we have a lot of data and from a long time ago. You can see we went live in 2022, and I have all of this is brought over. So basically, let's say that I wanted to, I can create an order here. Let me do let me create a license without an invoice. No, I'm just gonna do, well, actually, I'm gonna create an order. I'm gonna create an order. All right, cool. I don't have a batch open because I'm not working today. Actually, let me do this not in a screen. I'm not actually taking orders right now, so I have to create one for myself.
Just to fill in a little bit of space here while Jen's doing that, I need to just you know, Jen gave me compliments earlier, and I need to just say that the work that Jen has done as a single person IT department is amazing. She has just accomplished so much in such a short amount of time that it's I've been very impressed watching the things that she accomplishes.
Thank you.
So I wanted to put that in.
All right, I got to create a new batch, or put my. Actually, I'm going to put myself into the web batch.
But this is the kind of feedback you get because you're a developer and you're trying to work around something.
Yes, well, this is the error messages, which is great. Which I guess that's another good thing to point out. There's some things that I still wish were a little bit better on the error messages, mainly because I have a hard time just sorting through the amount of information that is there. But if I do get an error message, I can go to the admin logs, or they have in the configuration manager, they have the resource logs, and we aren't even logging detailed records. We're just logging enough where I can go in and go, oh, where is that? That occurred in this table, blah, blah. Well, I knew immediately what this problem was because I'm not in membership services right now. So they open a batch first thing in the morning, and I just really haven't taken any orders yet. But you can see this is their internal shopping cart. So I can choose somebody because we have a whole lot of people. So I can say, okay, well, who do I want to find? And I can kind of sort it out. Like if it's Jay Smith or something like that, there might be multiple members, and I might have to go, who are they? Which one? Oh yeah, they're from Kansas. This is the right person. So I'm going to add them to, this is an order for Peppermint Stripey. And I can add products. I can search by product. Okay, he wants to go to an election. He wants to be a part of the election.
You created your own Amazon here.
Yeah. Let's say I have like an award. You can see that some of them have different things here because not every product's the same. So we can say, oh, well, what kind of options are available? 96 hours of free fall. Select this option. Okay. And it puts it in the cart automatically for me. It tells me what my total is. And I can have comments to the customer because they get a receipt and everything. But when I'm ready to pay, apply payment. So how are you paying? And I'm just going to do cash because I don't really want to put my credit card in here now. And I can use UPS details, enter different billing information. There's lots of options here, and it runs and goes to an API we have with authorize.net. And let's say I submit payment. And now it's paid. And balance due. I have an invoice number now, and it emailed me a receipt. So this is the back side of the shopping cart. There is a less complicated front side shopping cart as well, obviously, because members will buy things that they need. It's simplified in the way it looks, but it's a lot more complicated in what is presented to them because, for example, they should not be able to buy a rating if they didn't earn the rating. And sure. It's like we just had form after form after form. All right, you want to purchase a rating. Okay, so here's a big long form. It has to be signed multiple times, and the membership staff has to look at the signature and try to read it, look that person up, make sure that they have the rating to sign that little line item off. I mean, it's really complicated, right? So that took a lot of manpower for membership, but not if you give the member and the people who, it is definitely like the what's it called? Streamline, I can't think of what it's called, where you put the stuff in the hands of the people who need it the most. It's very streamlined.
Yeah.
I can't think of the programming model. That's like, I don't know what's wrong with my head, but
well,
basically,
we understand you. Yeah.
But basically, can the person who already has that, can we just like allow them to sign it if they have the ability to sign? Don't allow them if they don't have the ability to sign. It's already taken care of. There's no problems of looking things up, and there's a lot of room for clerical error there. So it's all programmatic. And this, for example, are all the ratings and licenses that we have online. Judge ratings and licenses, etc., blah, blah. And so somebody might want to say, hey, so I completed 50 jumps. Well, this guy looked at my logbook and noted that I had 50 jumps completed and goes online and signs it. So for
someone in the
example,
world is verifying that statement.
yes, because we have, you know, about, what is it, about 6,000 instructors right now, and they have the training and the ability to go look at a logbook. Like, we don't ask for logbooks. Can you imagine the kind of data that would be? It's ridiculous. So trained people to on their, and it's plus it's like too much for a member to go, like, to one person to go look at all these logbooks. So they've been able to, because they know what they're looking for, they go and sign things off. And so, for example, if I want to verify, this is, let's say I'm just a member and I want to verify an activity. So again, we don't give our information out. You know, they have to, it has to match. They don't just get information. They have to know who the person is. Yeah. So that's one thing that's pretty easy with, like, well, nothing comes up until you find somebody. Okay, so I have somebody here. Oh, there, he's not a member, so I can't verify this person.
Yeah, makes sense. But
let me
it's
see if I
all
can find
these
somebody.
tiny things that, in my mind, it seems rather complicated. I mean, we just saw a small Amazon, you know, a membership registration, a lot of logic going on there.
Yes.
And I think Patrick said you created this by yourself in 1 year.
Yes.
But with the help of Patrick then.
With his help, yes.
Yeah.
It would not have happened in a year without that, for sure.
And I absolutely, because there's also the workflow and all kinds of logic. This question is for Patrick. I mean, how many times did you yell?
Did I yell?
Oh my
not
gosh,
really-
he's the most patient.
I'm not really a yeller, so no, I mean, I really, well, first of all, I just say I enjoy working with Jen. There's no question about that. I really like working with her. We as a, you know, in my role as a technical success manager, we had regular meetings set up, and during those meetings, we would just hash through a list of things that she was struggling with at any given moment, and you know, sometimes they would take up a lot of time during the meeting, and we would, and sometimes I had to take them out of the meeting and go and either work on them myself some, or go get help from my, you know, from colleagues in Plant and App. But we would just keep on working in that way, and we moved through it. So
what was the hardest part? Is there some nitty-gritty stuff where you think, well, it really pushed the limits?
I think some of the hardest parts is actually stuff that Jen accomplished on her own without my help, but which, like what we're looking at right here. If you guys could see what's behind what we're looking at right here, it was all created by Jen, and it's this is where the coding part of load code comes into play. is that screen that we were just looking at. Jen created this, and it's very impressive. So
that's not low code anymore, but that's full code.
Some things are, and some things
yeah.
aren't. It just depends on what you're looking.
I mean,
for.
this interface that she has right here for you know, with the check marks to see that all the steps for a specific requirement are done. There's a lot of code behind that, but it's all integrated with the low code part of the application. That's, I think, a good way to describe it.
Yeah. I know some people were anxious to see the actual code. So, but that's where you're heading right now, right?
Yeah, and so like this one is a lot more just code instead of automatic stuff out of the box. But if I wanted to, I could dig in deeper, and I can go into, like, this code right here. All it is HTML with tokens, and these tokens were SQL, little tiny bits of SQL that were important towards, you know, a lot of things. So, like, if you looked at the my tokens, if I show you my tokens, you'll see what I mean. How much I use my tokens, it's just amazing. Because that's like when I was talking about, hey, there's building blocks. This is what I mean. If you have
the tokens are on another screen, or
yeah, right here.
There it is.
Like, this is how much I use tokens. with all these namespaces. And
Okay.
each one of these, for example, would just be a little piece of HTML. Let's see, one of the ones I did today was just list all of your ratings by contact. This is me. So I can test my token before I even get there, you know, and it says, oh, yep, it's going good. There it is. And it's just a little tiny piece of SQL. And as long as you can keep those little pieces straight, and like, I think what I've done, unfortunately, is like, that's it. It's just like a little piece of SQL. That's it. So when I call that, it's doing a whole lot of work behind the scenes, but all you see is really just that one piece of code. Oh, I just lost my, this is what Patrick has to put up with all the time in our sessions, is like, I don't remember which window I was on.
Only 50, yeah.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. So you have the HTML, then somewhere in there you put the token, and with CSS you make it beautiful.
And a little bit of JavaScript, because that had a need where it was like if then and this. It needs to be these two or this. So it's a little complicated with the if then or statements.
So
but that's
as
like
a
the
non-developer, I mean, could you also put the JavaScript in a token, or is that the wrong place?
It's Razor's script, but yeah, it's actually more powerful than JavaScript, than just straight JavaScript. And I was a little intimidated by it at first. But it's just the syntax is slightly different, but the logic is exactly the same. Yeah.
I kept nagging you, didn't I? I said, because Jen came into this knowing how to do JavaScript really well, and I kept saying to her, your knowledge of JavaScript, I know you can learn to do Razor scripts, and it'll help you a lot. And eventually, she bit.
You dragged me into that, because I was like, no, my brain is full. But no, it really wasn't that bad once I got into it, you know. And that's the cool thing about it. If you do have just like those really basic languages that a lot of people that, you know, delve at, just like kind of know a little bit about stuff, you know, like HTML, a little CSS, a little JavaScript, a little C. Those aren't like C# hard programming kind of languages, but if you know a little bit about that, it's amazing how much more you can do with the product. I mean, yes, you could just create, like for example, I can say, okay, I can add a button, and all I have to do is say, hey, add an action. Well, what kind of action? Look at how many choices I have. I add a lot of choices. I can make my own workflow and run workflows like this, or I can email somebody. I'm just going to send an email. And all of this is so done for you. You're just filling out a form every time you create an action. And it can be just that simple. Yeah. Or you can learn a little bit more and expand it completely, or you're going to learn a lot more.
In our company, by the way, because I was triggered by that because of the tokens, we have someone who is a developer, and he's putting down all logic in a token, and then the front-end guy just uses the token. And the developer can rest assured that he's not breaking anything. He's not breaking the develop work. Is that how you? Are there any others in the organization also working with you in a way like that?
Not in a way like that, but there's one person who has the ability to just be sort of like the forms, like edit forms kind of thing. And maybe eventually, but I did tell her about tokens, but I think that was a little much for her. But she actually knows SQL before because of her previous job, so that's very helpful. Yeah. And so there's a SQL console as well, so you can have you know, the ability to go look at the tables and everything and the structure without giving away the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. I wanted to show this one too, by the way. This is our membership card, and all this is HTML with tokens. Yeah. And it's displayable on a phone. It's a mobile device. It's like a digital card, and this looks exactly like our printed card. But it's just like another thing that you can do. Digital credentials are sort of like a great thing. Everybody's saying, oh, this is what we should have, a digital card and all that. Well, it really wasn't that hard to construct. This was just a background image, and then this is one HTML with tokens.
Nice.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
I can talk about this forever. What else do I need to talk about? Oh,
well,
I can talk about.
because yeah, well, one of the things you said, well, dashboard is really easy to do. Do you have one lined up that we can see? I can imagine that as a director, you want to see how many people are we serving, and is that more or less than previous year?
Yes. So some of my dashboards have the pages have like other people's data on it, and so I'm not going to show that in particular. Sorry, but it's the beginning screen that you saw that had the numbers and everything. That was just a SQL, is just a count of. Maybe I can do like a one on a page that I'm not using. Give me a second here. A blank page that I can just put one on. That's
Yeah,
not
you
it.
needed 10 minutes, right? So
That's right. That's it.
yeah.
I think less than that.
And while Jen is doing that, I want to just mention, if you have a question, feel free to use the questions and answers or the chat, and we'll try and answer that. And just as a reminder, Jen has graciously agreed to join us in the low-code campfire on Friday. So that's another opportunity to ask your questions.
So this is
I'm gonna take one.
all the options you have to add modules. So this is the DNN interface.
We have easy DNN, but other than that, all of it is either out of the box or plant and app stuff. I'm actually going to add one that I already have. It's going to be, I'm going to make a copy of the one I have on, nope, I think it's on this page. I'll make a copy of that one.
And oh, it's already there.
It's already here.
Yeah.
It's just a module, and you can add things or configure, you can add or configure them. So let's say I want to put something on here. What's this titled? Members, I guess, or contacts. Okay, and the data source, I'm going to go to my entities, my plant and app entities. Which one? I want to go to contact. And what do I want to do? I want the count of how many I have. Okay, and I can actually do more than, you know, I can do, okay, how many are new in the last 30 days? How many new contacts did we create in the last 30 days? And it's just going to be an integer. Okay, see how really difficult this is?
Well, that
Done.
made sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, so that doesn't take SQL at all to do some of these types of you know, numbers that your membership services might want to see. So yeah, and the reports they want are really much more like, can I get like an email list of everybody I have to send an email out to? You know, we have MailChimp as well, and there's like so many connectors that you can connect to. So it's like, okay, well, I have to see who earned a license this past month, and like print out the actual emails instead of a count. And so they might need an exportable list, or they might just need a list that we can plug into MailChimp and stuff like that. And so it's super integrated. It really is a matter of like anything that they have asked me for new features, I've not been able to tell them I can't do it. That's a problem.
So with you took a year to build all of this, of course.
Yes. Yes.
And do you have any recommendation for people considering low code? I mean, is there something that's you think, well, someone should have told me this or that before I jumped on this?
Okay, well, I wish it had existed 20 years ago, because that would have made my life a lot easier. I would have been way more productive, you know, could have got a little more clients when I was working for myself and everything, and could have produced so much more. I think that, you know, for me, the one thing that was that I didn't understand was I didn't understand our financial part, because I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I could create a whole back office, a whole front end. And I asked my accounting manager, hey, what reports do you need? And it ends up being that was the biggest problem, was just doing those kinds of things. So definitely understanding completely the scope of what you have, what you need to do. but I have not yet seen an actual limitation. We've had to like shift gears a little bit sometimes. And it's like, okay, well, we can't do it that way, but this is another way, easy way to exactly do the same thing that we were trying to do. But you do need like what all is necessary and have a really good handle on that. And of course, scope creep is a thing. Once they start seeing how powerful this is, they want to try to change it and add things.
Yeah.
And we ended up delaying our launch because of that, because it was like, do I just want to put a bad structure into a new website? No, I want to make this better at the same time. So we ended up delaying the launch too. And so maybe you do want to have flexibility built in there. I absolutely recommend get a dedicated technical success. But I can't say get a Patrick of your own.
Yeah, Patrick. Yeah,
He's mine. You can't have him though. He was so patient, just teaching me how to actually work with the products, and then he always had an idea of how we can do it. And you know, because I would be kind of stuck on something, or just to have somebody to proofread your code because you misspell things or forgot that should be a colon instead of a dot and things like this. My token was syntax was wrong, things like that.
But what I hear you say is that basically the most important lessons learned is maybe a classic. I mean, like customer management. As please define what you want, have your project in order, have a definition of done. Please help me understand what I need to create for you. And luckily, if you make a mistake, then you are in a better position to improve on that.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm serious. I can't really say enough about how Patrick helped me do this, because I was just one person. But I wasn't one person because I always had him to help me. And especially if you're taking on something this big, it really is important to I mean, the help is there, and why not take advantage of it? I mean, the other kinds of help you could get would be like the Campfire. But you know, I kind of felt guilty about like always having a problem when I would show up, and you know, like I don't want to be the problem child. Everybody's working on my problem all the time, but you know, that's why, and I just had too many things going on. But you can avail yourself of that as well. But I really thought that what made the biggest difference of the time frame, my frustration level, running out of ideas of how to make this happen, and that was Patrick's involvement here.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to add in that sometimes those, you know, when you would come to me with something, it was often the situation, and we've all been there, where you start to explain a problem to someone else, and then suddenly you start solving it yourself just because you're explaining it to somebody. And Jen had a few of those moments with me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, when I explained it to my husband, it didn't happen that way.
Well, yeah, and it has to be somebody who has a little bit of an idea of what you're actually
exactly.
so that you can bounce the ideas. And so I, you know, in some situations, I didn't solve the problem for you, but you were able to talk to me about it, and I might have asked a question that spurred something in you that made you come up with the solution on your own.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that going on, but I also wanted to just go back to the financial stuff for a second, because a lot of the situations I'm talking about happened when it came to the financial stuff, because when it amazes me that Jen got to the understanding that she did about the financial stuff, because when she would start to talk to me about the financial stuff, honestly, my eyes would start to glaze over, because it's really complex stuff. I mean, it really is. The way they have to report their financial data is very complex, and she was creating these reports for them, and so that was a lot of, you know, she would start talking to me about it, and I would ask a question, and then she would start to realize, okay, maybe this is where I went wrong with it.
Yeah, and that might be another key takeaway, because you don't want to have 80% of your project done and then realize that one of the really must-haves are not available there. It cannot be done. So the part where you do not hit a wall or can go around a wall, that is really important.
Yeah, and to your point, I don't think it can't be done.
So we did have a question, and the question was, does Jen have a development or test
That were
system?
open.
And how does she manage changes?
Sorry about that. I got cut out for a second.
Well, so we asked you a question.
Okay.
Actually, the question came: does Jen have a development or test system, and how does she manage changes?
Yes. Okay. So this is just my personal preference, but it may or may not be the best for everybody. But because everything is so huge, the whole project is so huge, having a test environment, and if we had to refresh that all the time, it's just immense. So even if we had a test environment, it would have to be only a partial environment. It couldn't be a complete copy because it would just be, seriously, we have so much data just to keep them matched up, it would be unfeasible. So what I end up doing is I just have areas in the website that are not visible to anybody, and I do all my development there. And then I test it thoroughly myself, and then I impersonate people and try to test it that way. And then I have staff test it on, you know, I just put it into a different page that they're be working with, and I have them impersonate people. And then we put it live on the website, and don't tell anybody it's there. And wait for people to tell us they had a problem, and then fix it, and then we announce it. So that's kind of my flow. It's very not traditional at all, but
it's
just
compartmentalized, as to speak.
Yeah, but instead of just having a completely large environment, and because it's just me. It's not like I have multiple developers to try to sort through and like list of things and here's our release with these changes and versions and all that. I don't have to do that. So that's just my process, just little tiny pieces at a time in that manner.
Jen, I was wondering if you'd be willing to, I checked it out. I don't think you're revealing anything, but please let me know if it's not okay. But I was wondering if you'd be willing to share one of your more complex workflows. And I was thinking about the
Sure.
The workflow where you accept payments.
Okay.
Just to show people on the call that I mean, you've used workflows amazingly, and but to also just show an example of how complex some of the logic is behind what you're doing, especially with the shopping cart.
Like accept authorized.net payment, that one?
Yeah, that was what I was thinking about. Yep.
Okay. That's because this one looks awesome, right?
It's a lot here. Yep.
Okay. So there's inputs. And with this one, this calls an API, and this was actually built in. So I didn't have to write anything. Authorized.net is a built-in connector. And so you can see where I get to that part where I run the payment, which is make a payment with a credit card. That is just an action that is already built in. I just had to select that action. And you can see I just like put it in. That's it. I filled in the form.
And notice that she's not exposing anything that that she can't right there. But her the ID for authorized.net is in a token, so that she has one place to update it when she needs to.
Yeah. So that's like a lot of like if then, but it's very visual, and I love this because this is kind of what my brain looks like actually. It's like, okay, well, let's split it off into there's some ifs, and then it comes back together. Okay, well, what if it's a check? What if it's a credit card? I have to record different things. And it's so easy to go back and find this stuff because I'm used to like, the whole black screen with the whole IntelliSense, different colored words that are just code. And like, oh, I'm going to put a whole bunch of asterisks here with a comment so that I can find this later. But this is just visually organized, so awesome. This is part of what makes it easy to maintain because I can go right to where I, just the flow. I don't have a huge list of code that I have to sort through. It's very visual, and each one of these is just a little piece of Lego. There we go. End.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
And with that part, I would like to hand over the mic back to Dale and thank Jen a lot for the amazing, all the words and experiences.
My pleasure. It's always fun talking about something you love.
Absolutely, very interesting, and I think I suspect we'll get a lot of questions. We welcome the new attendees to the webinar, and please join us on the Low Code Campfire on Friday as well. Jen, excellent presentation. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
See you all next time.
Right.